Can a piece of life-saving equipment actually guarantee that you don't survive? It sounds completely impossible, right? Like a total paradox. But today, we're stopping the scroll to break down exactly what goes wrong when we just blindly trust systems and the people running them with our actual lives. Welcome to a breaking investigative broadcast from the Human Error News Network. I'm your host, and today we're unpacking a terrifying case study that proves why your basic assumptions about safety might just be your biggest vulnerability. Picture this for a second. You're stepping onto a luxury paradise cruise right off the beautiful coast of Vietnam. You're there with your coworkers, on a corporate reward trip, just having a great time. You totally assume the rules, the safety regulations, and the crew are all there to protect you. But what if you suddenly found yourself in a deadly trap literally 15 seconds later? Not because of some freak unavoidable act of nature, but because of a hidden cascading mechanical failure and human judgment. Seriously, can simply holding a life jacket instead of wearing it be the exact thing that seals your fate? We all do this. Every single one of us. We surrender our personal agency the second we see a confident-looking captain at the helm and a neat little pile of bright orange safety gear sitting in the corner. We tell ourselves, oh, they know what they're doing, right? But if you want to stop being just a passive passenger in your own life, hit subscribe and join our community here at the Human Error News Network. Together, we're learning how to break that blind trust so we can detect, prevent, and correct human error long before it strikes. To truly understand how a disaster like this unfolds, we have to follow the evidence. As your lead anchor, I've spent days analyzing the official incident reports, combing through some truly heartbreaking survivor testimonies, and mapping out the nationwide waterway accident heat maps from Vietnam. I pulled all of this together to bring you this special report on the absolute anatomy of a tragedy. I'm going to show you exactly how a series of tiny, seemingly insignificant choices snowballed into an absolute catastrophe. The timeline of this disaster is terrifyingly fast. We're tracking a speedboat carrying 32 Indian tourists from a company called Lava International, departing from Hanme Rut and Wai Island. Just a few minutes into the trip, barely 400 meters offshore, they are suddenly slamming into 10-foot waves. The captain attempts this really sharp maneuver. Panic sets in. The boat capsizes, instantly trapping people inside. And then comes the ultimate failure, a disastrously delayed rescue and medical response. Now, here is the crucial point. This is where you really need to pay attention. It wasn't just the 10-foot waves that destroyed the boat's physical stability. It was a chain of cascading human errors. First off, the captain actively chose to proceed despite severe weather warnings. Second, the operator failed entirely to enforce mandatory stroke seating, which is like a basic safety protocol, right? And third, because nobody was dropped in, terrified passengers sitting on the right abruptly shifted their weight to the left during that sharp turn. The boat lost its balance and immediately turned turtle. Okay, let's dive into this specific compliance failure, because honestly, this is where the psychology of human error gets incredibly dark. The captain reportedly told everyone to grab their life jackets right before departure, but the passengers, they merely held them in their hands. They weren't actually wearing them, they weren't buckled in. So, when the boat violently flipped over, those jackets were instantly ripped away by the current, rendering the safety gear completely useless. The illusion of safety became a fatal trap. And the hard data proves this isn't just some crazy, isolated incident. When we look at the heat map spanning from 2022 all the way to 2024, they reveal a really dense, dramatically rising trend of maritime negligence across southern and central Vietnam, especially around the Mekong Delta and Phu Quoc. The data clearly shows us that capsizing due to human error, basic negligence in vessel operation, and just straight-up ignoring adverse weather are systemic issues here. The system itself was flashing red long before this specific boat ever even left the dock. Subconsciously, you might be sitting there thinking, well, I would never let that happen to me. But let's be totally honest with ourselves for a second. We absolutely all share this vulnerability. It's the difference between assuming the crew is completely prepared versus confronting our own habits. How many times have you boarded a plane or a boat and just kind of assumed the crew had everything perfectly under control while you completely tuned out the safety instructions? Go ahead and drop a comment down below right now if you've ever ignored a safety briefing yourself. Seriously, don't be shy about it. Acknowledging our own everyday complacency is literally the very first step in fixing this problem together. Because this systemic failure to enforce basic protocols, this massive collective complacency, resulted in a devastating human toll. 15 Indian tourists died. That's 15 people on a fun corporate reward trip who simply trusted the system. They trusted the captain, and they trusted that merely holding a piece of foam in their hands was going to be enough to save them. And this brilliantly, but tragically, illustrates the horrific secondary fallout of human error. We have this agonizing quote from a survivor named Govinda. He literally watched his friends die. Because the local infrastructure simply wasn't prepared for a maritime emergency, survivors were forced to perform CPR themselves on the beach while waiting for a severely delayed official medical response. There was no oxygen, no trained doctors immediately on site. The emergency response was just as fundamentally flawed as the preventative measures were. So how do you actually take back your agency? Well, here is your clear roadmap to detect, prevent, and correct human error before disaster strikes. Consider this your personal error prevention blueprint. Number 1, never just hold a life jacket. Wear it, buckle it, and tighten it. Number 2, remain securely seated to maintain the vessel's center of gravity. Number 3, demand an emergency briefing. If they don't give you one, speak up and ask for one. Number 4, check the weather yourself on your own phone before you board. And finally, always locate your emergency exits immediately. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this right now and make absolutely sure to share this blueprint with whoever you're traveling with next. So, you now know the deadly math of how human error, complacency, and a sudden weight shift can totally flip a boat in 10-foot waves. You know exactly how to protect yourself on the water now. But it leaves us with a terrifying new question. We just talked about checking the weather yourself, right? But what happens when human error is actually hard-coded into the very algorithms predicting that rough weather in the first place? Because if the very system you use to check for danger is actually the glitch you won't see coming, then who is really at the wheel? This has been a special report from the Human Error News Network.